Some secrets don't begin with a kiss or a dramatic confession. Some begin quietly, in places built for work, not love. On the third floor of a bustling corporate building, a young woman spent her days calming frustrated customers through a headset. 2 floors below, a young man in IT moved through hallways fixing machines no one remembered to appreciate until they broke. They didn't share a team. They didn't share responsibilities. They didn't even share friends. But they shared a rule, a company rule that said undisclosed relationships were forbidden. A rule that most people ignored until it became the center of someone else's story. They didn't plan to notice each other. They didn't plan to fall into a routine that felt like a hidden language. And they definitely didn't plan for one photograph, taken from the back of a crowded registry hall, to change the course of their lives. But stories have a way of unfolding, even when people try to keep them still. This is how theirs unfolded. Her first day felt like stepping into one of adulthood's bigger promises. The office lobby buzzed with movement, the kind of rhythm that makes you feel part of something larger than yourself. She was handed a handbook, thick and official, with pages filled with things she doubted she'd ever need to remember. One line caught her attention. Undeclared romantic relationships between staff may lead to disciplinary action. She chuckled. She had come here to build a career, not find love. Meanwhile, the young man on the second floor was battling a misbehaving server, cursing under his breath as blinking lights mocked his efforts. He had no idea that someone who would change his life had just walked in through the front door. Their worlds existed in the same building, but they had no reason yet to collide. But buildings like theirs, full of long hallways and shared frustrations, have a way of stitching strangers together. 3 weeks into her role, while navigating a particularly difficult customer, her computer froze completely. She tapped the keys, nothing. Tapped the mouse, nothing. Tapped it again, nothing. Her supervisor gestured, "Call IT." The young man arrived with a calm efficiency that softened even the tension in the air. He greeted her with politeness, set down his tools, and worked on her computer with practiced skill. "Done," he said with an easy smile. "You're good to go." She thanked him, genuinely relieved. He shrugged lightly. We all help each other survive here. Something small but meaningful passed between them. A familiarity, a hint of curiosity. After that day, he found more excuses to check on her department. She found herself listening for his footsteps. Nothing was said aloud, but something had started. One Friday evening, rain slammed against the windows without warning. Most teams clocked out early, but her department was behind. She sighed as her system crashed again. When she looked up, there he was, rain dampened, wiping water from his arms. "You're still here?" he asked. "Deadlines," she said, offering a tired smile. He fixed her system quickly, but instead of leaving, he lingered. The storm outside seemed to invite conversation, and they slipped into stories they didn't realize they needed to share. Childhood dreams, workplace frustrations, hopes for something bigger. When the rain softened to a drizzle, he offered to walk her to the staff bus. They walked with a respectful distance between them, but the warmth beneath the rain was unmistakable. She turned once before getting on the bus. He stood there, hands in pockets, watching her through the soft glow of street lights. Something had changed. Quietly, irrevocably. Their world became an orchestrated routine of carefulness and quiet affection. They built a relationship in small, strategic pieces, a shared bench behind the office. Conversations after work in dim corridors. Early morning messages deleted minutes after reading. leaving the building at different times to avoid suspicion. They knew the rule, they knew the risk, but they also knew what they felt, and they were not ready to let it go. One evening at sunset, sitting on the lone stone bench behind the building, they had the conversation that changed everything. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want us, but I want us safely." They decided to stay careful. Not reckless, not fearless, just careful. And if an opportunity ever came, an opportunity that would let them take their relationship into the open, they would take it. Until then, secrecy was their survival. Secrecy is fragile. It cracks in small, predictable places. The young woman moved closer to where the young man lived. A minor change that colleagues noticed immediately. She changed her stop. She now comes from that side of town. She didn't tell anyone she moved. People whispered. People watched. HR noticed too. They called them in separately. Both denied any relationship convincingly. There was no evidence. Yet. So the suspicion simmered quietly like water waiting to boil. Their secret held, but its edges had begun to fray. Coworkers assumed she had only moved closer to his bus stop, but that wasn't the truth. She hadn't just moved near him, she had moved in with him. Her rent had expired, and renewing for another year felt pointless. Their relationship had already deepened. They were planning a future together. It made sense, but what didn't make sense was letting the office know. So they maintained the appearance of living separate lives. Every morning, she left early and walked past his bus stop. The company bus picked him up first, then continued to the next stop to pick her. In the evenings, the routine reversed. He dropped at his stop. She dropped at the next, then walked back. A simple strategy to maintain distance on paper, even though they shared the same home. But secrecy has a shelf life. People still noticed patterns. Attention returned. Whispers lingered. So they made a decision together. They would both apply for jobs elsewhere. Whoever got an offer first would resign, freeing them from company rules and from the fragile dance they'd been performing for months. Weeks passed. Applications went out. Hope stayed steady. Then one afternoon, an email arrived for him. A job offer from a tech company in Germany. Relocation covered, paperwork supported, a chance to start a life far away from office suspicion. When he showed her, her eyes softened with relief. The future they wanted was finally within reach. But before any suitcase could be packed or ticket booked, there was one more step they had promised each other they would take. A quiet one, a legal one. If he was going to live and build a foundation abroad, they wanted their union recognized before distance complicated things. Nothing extravagant, just a small court marriage that would make her his wife officially. So joining him later would be simpler, cleaner, and fully theirs. So the following Wednesday, they made their way to the city court. Separately, of course. It was safer that way. The registry hall was already filling up when they arrived. Rows of plastic chairs arranged in tight lines, every seat occupied by couples completing their pre-wedding documentation. Some whispered excitedly, others looked tense. The air buzzed with a mix of bureaucracy and new beginnings. They blended in effortlessly. She slipped into a seat near the middle. He found a spot closer to the aisle. No eye contact, no gestures. Nothing to suggest they shared anything more than air. It was all part of the plan. To move quietly, unnoticed, just another pair among many. And for a moment, it worked. Until life, or coincidence, stepped in. Nicole was there too, a co-worker, sharp-eyed, and unexpectedly, another bride-to-be attending the same registry session for her own upcoming wedding. She noticed them instantly, not sitting together, not talking, not even acknowledging each other, but present, in the same pre-wedding hall on the same morning. Nicole didn't call out to them. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She simply lifted her phone slightly from her lap and snapped one discrete photograph. A single frame, obstructed by heads, blurred at the edges, but unmistakable. 2 coworkers, same registry session, same week, same hall, not beside each other, but undeniably connected. The photograph existed now, and photographs have a way of traveling long before the people in them are ready for the journey. By the next morning, the office buzzed like a hive kicked open. I knew it. Look at the picture. That's them. Evidence doesn't lie. Whispers thickened in the hallways, growing roots in every corner of the building. Screenshots flew from phone to phone. Someone forwarded it to a supervisor. Within hours, HR had it. They didn't waste time. Both of them were summoned. Inside the small HR office, the printed photograph sat on the table like a silent accusation. The crowded registry hall, blurred heads, and 2 unmistakable profiles caught in the same frame. They didn't try to deny it. They had already seen Nicole the day before, already known the risk, already braced themselves for this moment. So when HR asked the question, they simply nodded. Yes, they were together. Yes, they were planning to marry quietly. But company policy was clear, and HR stated it without emotion. Because this relationship was undisclosed, one of you must resign. The room went still. Not dramatic, not loud, just inevitable. He didn't fight it, because the truth was, he had already secured another job abroad and had been preparing to submit his resignation. So he accepted the decision calmly. By afternoon, his resignation letter was filed. By evening, the office had shifted back to normal. The rumor died, the whispers faded, but the consequences, the weight of being found out, the cost of keeping love quiet, lingered in the spaces they once shared. There was no dramatic last day, no countdown, no transition, no slow packing of belongings. The meeting with HR ended, and that was it. He stepped out into the hallway with the decision already made for him, and she was there, waiting, silent, steady. They walked out of the building together, the weight of the moment settling between them. Before leaving, he stopped by a few desks, offering quiet smiles and brief goodbyes. Nothing heavy, nothing explanatory, just the kind of farewell a man gives when he has already chosen his next chapter. And that evening became his last day. Simple, swift, and final. A few weeks later, he boarded a plane to Germany. A new job, a new city, a colder world, and the beginning of a life he would prepare for her to join. The promise remained intact. When everything was finally in place, she resigned too. Quickly, without complications, without looking back. One signature, a short goodbye, and she was done. At the airport, her hands trembled around her boarding pass. Not from fear alone, but from the weight of everything she was leaving behind, and everything she was running toward. She moved through security, down the jet bridge, and into the sky that carried her across continents toward him. Hours later, in the bright, echoing arrival hall of Germany, she saw him standing there. No words, just a breath of relief. And then his arms around her, warm, certain, familiar. Their embrace closed the distance the months had carved between them, stitching together every moment of waiting, every challenge, every quiet promise. From that reunion, they built a home, a new rhythm, a new beginning, born from a secret that nearly cost them everything, but ultimately led them exactly where they needed to be. Their story teaches us that love becomes heavier when it is forced to hide. What begins as a harmless choice, a quiet attempt to protect something precious, can slowly turn into a weight you carry everywhere you go. And in trying so hard not to be discovered, they learned a difficult truth. Sometimes secrecy hurts more than the truth you're afraid to confront. It also reminds us why workplace rules exist. not to police love or connection, but to prevent the quiet chaos that grows when boundaries blur behind closed doors. Ignoring those rules didn't just cost them their peace. It gave room for whispers, assumptions, and narratives they could no longer control. But beyond the tension and the fallout, their journey reveals something deeper. Honesty, even when delayed, still has the power to set things right. The moment they stepped out of hiding, into reality, into responsibility, into the future they chose together, their relationship finally had space to breathe. They learned that love grows stronger in the open, that the truth, though uncomfortable, clears the path forward, and that building a life together is easier when you're not fighting shadows. In the end, doing things the right way isn't just about protecting a job or managing a reputation. It's about protecting the love you're trying to keep. And that, above all else, is the lesson their story leaves behind.